When Maria Gonzalez found her 10-year-old son Miguel crying over a school debate club uniform he couldn't afford, she never imagined a desperate letter to his hero would change everything. Living in East Los Angeles, working 2 jobs and barely making ends meet, Maria took the biggest risk of her life reaching out to former President Barack Obama. What happened next would transform not just Miguel's educational dreams but their entire future in ways neither could have imagined. And the greatest gift wasn't what it first appeared to be. Maria Gonzalez's fingers ached as she counted the dollar bills spread across her tiny kitchen table. 20, 40, 60. She had barely $200 left to last until next Friday. The pile of bills next to the money seemed to grow taller every month. Rent, electricity, Miguel's school lunch account. Maria rubbed her tired eyes and glanced at the clock. Almost midnight. She had to be up in 5 hours for her morning shift at the diner. Just 3 months ago things had been different. Maria had worked steady hours at Rosita's restaurant for nearly 6 years. The owner, Mrs. Delgado, had been like family, even letting Miguel sit in the back booth to do homework when Maria couldn't find someone to watch him. But when Mrs. Delgado got sick and had to close the restaurant, 20 people lost their jobs. Maria had been one of them. "We're going to be okay," she whispered to herself, the same words she told Miguel every night before bed. Maria had quickly found work at a diner 10 blocks away, but it paid less and the hours weren't as good. She'd also picked up weekend cleaning jobs for a few office buildings downtown. The extra work meant less time with Miguel, but what choice did she have? There was no one else to help them. Miguel's father had disappeared before his first birthday, and Maria's parents were back in Mexico dealing with health problems of their own. A floorboard creaked in the hallway. Maria quickly gathered the bills and stuffed them into an envelope. "Mama?" Miguel stood in the doorway, his Obama Hope t-shirt hanging past his knees. At 10 years old, he still looked so small in the oversized shirt he refused to part with. "Why aren't you sleeping, Mijo? It's very late." "I heard you counting," Miguel said. He was too smart, too aware of things a 10-year-old shouldn't have to worry about. "Are we okay on money?" "We're fine," Maria lied. "Come back to bed." Miguel didn't move. "Ms. Carter gave us these today." He held out a wrinkled paper. "We need them by next Friday." Maria took the paper and felt her stomach drop. It was an order form for the school debate club's new blazers and ties, $300 due in 10 days. Her heart sank as she saw Miguel's excited face. Debate wasn't just a hobby for him, it was his passion, his escape, his joy. "The whole club is getting them," Miguel continued. "Ms. Carter says we can't compete in the district tournament without proper attire." Maria swallowed hard. $300 might as well be $3,000. There was no way she could spare it, not with rent due and the electric bill already late. "It looks very nice," she said cautiously. "Let me think about it, okay? Now bed, you have school tomorrow." Miguel nodded, but his eyes had already caught the change in her face. He knew. "It's okay, Mama. I don't really need to be in the club this year." His brave little smile broke Maria's heart. She pulled him into a hug, breathing in the scent of the cheap shampoo they now bought instead of the kind he liked. "Go to sleep, Mijo. Things will look better in the morning." After tucking Miguel back into bed, Maria returned to the kitchen. She picked up the order form and stared at it until the numbers blurred. Debate was the one thing that kept Miguel going after they'd had to move to the smaller apartment. The one bright spot when she had to work late and he spent too many hours alone. On the refrigerator, held by a magnet with the presidential seal, was a picture Miguel had drawn of his hero, Barack Obama. Next to it was a newspaper clipping about Obama visiting a local school. Miguel had read that article so many times the paper was soft and wrinkled. "President Obama says we should never give up on our education and dreams," he had told her, "no matter what." Maria wiped away a tear. She was failing her son. She couldn't even afford to give him this one thing he loved. The next day was worse. Maria spilled coffee on a customer who yelled at her in front of the entire diner. Her boss warned her that one more mistake would cost her the job. By the time she picked Miguel up from his after-school program, her head was pounding. "How was debate club?" she asked as they walked home. Miguel kicked a stone on the sidewalk. "I didn't go." "Why not? You never miss debate club." He shrugged. Everyone was talking about the new blazers. Sammy's dad already paid for his. Ms. Carter asked who else had their money ready. Maria felt a stab of shame. "Miguel, it's fine, Mama, really." He walked ahead of her, his shoulders slumped under his backpack. "At home, Miguel went straight to his room instead of turning on the TV to watch political speeches like he usually did. Maria made their dinner, beans and rice again, and called him when it was ready. He ate silently, pushing the food around his plate. "I'll find a way to get your blazer," Maria promised. "Maybe I can pick up another cleaning job this weekend." Miguel looked up, his dark eyes serious. "You already work too much. I see how tired you are." He was so much like his grandfather, old eyes and a young face. "I'm fine, Mijo." Mrs. Delgado came by the school today, Miguel said suddenly. "She asked about you." Maria's chest tightened. She missed her old boss terribly. "What did she say?" "She said to tell you she's moving to San Diego to live with her daughter." She looked sad. Miguel pushed his plate away. Everything keeps changing. After dinner, Maria went to check on Miguel and found him sitting on his bed, staring at a debate medal from last semester. His room was a shrine to Barack Obama. Posters covered nearly every inch of wall space. His most prized possession was a framed photo of Obama speaking to children at a school event, something Maria had saved for months to buy him last Christmas. "Can I come in?" she asked. Miguel nodded. When she sat beside him, she saw his eyes were red. "Sammy said I can't be in the club without a blazer," he whispered. "He said I should stop pretending I'm going to be like President Obama someday." Something broke inside Maria. She wrapped her arms around her son as his shoulders shook with silent sobs. "Sammy is wrong," she said fiercely. "You can be anything you want to be." But as Miguel cried against her shoulder, Maria knew that words weren't enough. In the real world, dreams cost money, even children's dreams. $300 stood between her son and his passion. Later, after Miguel had fallen asleep, Maria sat at the kitchen table again. She noticed a newspaper article Miguel had taped to the wall. Next to it was information about how citizens could send mail to former President Obama through his foundation office. Maria stared at the address. An impossible idea began to form in her mind. What if? She shook her head. It was ridiculous. Why would someone like Barack Obama care about one boy's problems? But as she walked past Miguel's room and saw him asleep with his debate notes still clutched in his arms, Maria made a decision. She would try anything, even the impossible, for her son. Maria waited until Miguel's soft snores filled the small apartment. She took out a pen and the nicest paper she could find, a yellow legal pad from the stack she kept for Miguel's homework. Her hands shook slightly as she began to write. "Dear Mr. President Obama." She paused, staring at the 4 words. This was crazy. What was she thinking? Someone like Barack Obama probably got thousands of letters from fans every day. He would never even see this. Maria almost crumpled the paper, but then she thought of Miguel's tears, his slumped shoulders as he walked ahead of her on the sidewalk. She took a deep breath and continued writing. "My name is Maria Gonzalez. I am a single mother from East Los Angeles. My son Miguel is 10 years old, and you are his hero." The words came easier now. Maria wrote about Miguel's love for public speaking and debate, how he practiced speeches in front of their bathroom mirror every chance he got. She described how he wore his Obama t-shirt until the letters were fading, and how he saved his Obama posters when they had to move to a smaller apartment last year. "Miguel knows all your speeches. He can tell anyone who will listen about your 2004 convention address, your victory speech in 2008, and your farewell address. But what he talks about most is your belief in education and hard work. He tells me you said great things come from believing in yourself and perseverance. Miguel believes this with all his heart." Maria hesitated before writing the next part. Her pride made this difficult, but Miguel mattered more than her pride. "I lost my main job 3 months ago when the restaurant where I worked closed down. I am working 2 jobs now, but I am falling behind on bills. Miguel's school debate club requires $300 for new blazers and ties by next Friday. Without these, Miguel cannot participate in the district tournament. I want to be clear, I am not asking for money. I know you must get many requests like that. I am only hoping that maybe you could send Miguel a small note of encouragement, something to keep his dream alive during this difficult time. Just a few words from you would mean everything to him." Maria added their address and then read over the letter. It sounded pathetic. She was a grown woman begging a stranger to make her son feel better when that was her job. But what choice did she have? She had tried everything else. She wrote one last line. "Thank you for being a role model my son can look up to. It means more than you will ever know. Sincerely, Maria Gonzalez." After finishing, Maria folded the letter carefully and found an envelope in her bill drawer. She addressed it to the Obama Foundation address from the article on Miguel's wall. She would need to use one of her precious stamps to mail it tomorrow. Maria looked in on Miguel one more time before going to bed. In sleep, his face was peaceful again, young and unburdened. His Obama posters watched over him from every wall. Obama delivering a speech, Obama with children at a school, Obama receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. Maria wondered what it would be like to have that kind of success, to never worry about paying bills or disappointing your child. She whispered a quiet prayer that somehow her words might reach beyond the walls of fame and position that separated her world from Barack Obama's. The next morning, Maria slipped the letter into her purse before waking Miguel for school. She dropped it into a mailbox on her way to the East Side diner, not telling Miguel what she had done. Why give him another reason to hope when that hope would likely lead nowhere? At work, Maria moved mechanically between tables, taking orders and delivering food. Her feet ached in her worn shoes, and a headache pounded behind her eyes. During her break, she called about another cleaning job, but they had already hired someone else. That afternoon, when Maria picked Miguel up from school, he seemed a little brighter. Ms. Carter said I can still practice with the club even if my blazer is late, he told her, as long as I get it before the district tournament next month. Maria felt a wave of relief. At least Miguel could still participate. That's great news, Joe. And guess what? I memorized the entire Gettysburg Address today. Joey said I'm getting really good. You are, Maria said, squeezing his shoulder. You work harder than anyone. Miguel beamed at the praise. That's what President Obama does, he said. He prepares more than anyone else. Maria smiled, though her heart ached. Miguel talked about Obama as if they were friends, as if the former president somehow knew he existed. Later that evening, while Miguel did his homework, Maria pulled out the order form again. Maybe she could ask for an advance at the diner, or sell something, but what? They had already sold anything of value when they moved to the smaller apartment. Mama? Miguel called from the table. Can you help me with this math problem? Maria pushed aside her worries and sat down next to her son. This was what mattered, these moments together, not blazers or bills she couldn't pay. Days passed. Maria tried not to think about the letter she had sent. It was probably sitting in a pile somewhere unread, or maybe an assistant had thrown it away, thinking it was just another request for money. At night, she searched for extra work online using the old laptop Miguel's school had given him. She found a Saturday job cleaning a doctor's office. It didn't pay much, but it was something. Miguel continued going to debate club. He came home tired but happy, full of stories about argument structures and persuasive techniques. He never mentioned the blazer again, but Maria noticed him looking at the calendar, counting down the days until the money was due. Every evening, Miguel watched speeches on YouTube, studying Obama's delivery like they were lessons in a classroom. He practiced in their tiny living room, careful not to knock anything over as he mimicked Obama's gestures and cadence. Maybe I can help you clean on Saturday, Miguel suggested one night. I'm old enough. Maria's throat tightened. No, Joe, your job is to be a kid and do well in school. But President Obama says. I know what President Obama says, Maria interrupted gently, but I'm your mama, and I say you need to be a child while you can. Miguel nodded, though she could see he wanted to argue. He was so determined to help, to be grown up before his time, just like she had been at his age. A week after sending the letter, Maria checked the mail after work, bills, advertisements, and a notice about their rent increasing next month. Nothing from the Obama Foundation or Barack Obama. Of course not. What had she expected? That night, Maria kneeled beside her bed and prayed harder than she had in years, not for herself, but for Miguel, for some way to keep his dream alive when everything else seemed to be pulling it further away. She had tried the impossible. Now all she could do was wait. 2 weeks passed, and Maria tried to forget about the letter. Every day she checked the mail with a flutter of hope in her chest, and every day that hope dimmed a little more. Meanwhile, the deadline for Miguel's blazer payment grew closer. Maria had saved $120 from her weekend cleaning jobs, but she was still far short of the $300 needed. She started skipping lunch to save a few extra dollars. Some nights she told Miguel she had already eaten at work so he could have her portion of dinner. Mama, you look tired, Miguel said one evening as they walked home from the bus stop. Are you sick? Just working hard, Maria said, forcing a smile. How was debate club today? Miguel kicked a stone on the sidewalk. Ms. Carter says we're getting our blazers next week, the ones whose parents already paid. Maria's stomach tightened. I'm still working on it, Joe. I know, Miguel was quiet for a moment. Sammy's dad asked Ms. Carter why I'm still practicing if I'm not going to compete in the tournament. What did Ms. Carter say? She said I'm one of the best speakers and she's saving a spot for me. Miguel looked up at her with eyes too serious for a 10-year-old, but Sammy said his dad thinks it's a waste of time. Maria wanted to march over to Sammy's house and tell his father what she thought of him. Instead, she squeezed Miguel's shoulder. Your teacher is right, and we'll figure something out about the blazer. But as they reached their apartment building, Maria wasn't sure how to keep that promise. On Saturday, Maria picked up an extra shift at the diner. The manager had warned everyone that business was slow, and they might need to cut staff soon. Maria worked harder than ever, hoping to prove she was worth keeping. Miguel spent the day at the public library on Whittier Boulevard. From the diner window, Maria could just see the edge of the building. During her breaks, she watched Miguel walking in and out with books. Later that afternoon, a school debate team arrived at the library for a practice session, all wearing matching blazers and ties. Maria watched as Miguel stood to the side. Watching them, he didn't try to join in. Instead, he sat at a table, his speech notes resting in his lap. The sight broke Maria's heart. Her son, who loved debate more than anything, was too embarrassed to practice with the other kids because he didn't have the right clothes. When her shift ended, Maria walked to the library to get Miguel. Ready to go home? Miguel nodded, his eyes still on the debate team. They're from Lincoln Middle School. They won the regional championship last year. Maybe your team will win this year. Miguel shrugged. Maybe. As they walked home, Miguel was quieter than usual. Maria tried to cheer him up by suggesting they watch an Obama documentary their neighbor had recorded. Mrs. Vasquez often invited them over since they didn't have cable. They're showing his 2008 victory speech tonight, she said. That's your favorite, right? For the first time, Miguel didn't get excited at the mention of Obama's speech. I have homework, he said. That night, Maria heard Miguel crying softly in his room. She stood outside his door, her own tears falling silently. She had failed him. The letter had been a foolish hope, a desperate prayer that someone like Barack Obama would care about one struggling family in East Los Angeles. The next day was Sunday. Maria had the day off, and they walked to church together. Usually, Miguel talked all the way there, telling her about debate techniques or what happened at school. Today, he was silent. After church, they stopped at the park. Miguel half-heartedly practiced a speech while Maria sat on a bench nearby. She watched a father teaching his young daughter how to project her voice. The girl was laughing, her hair bouncing in pigtails as she spoke loudly. The father looked up and caught Maria watching. He smiled, and Maria quickly looked away. Miguel stopped mid-speech and sighed heavily. Can we go home now? One more try, Maria encouraged. Remember what President Obama says about not giving up. Miguel held his notes but didn't continue speaking. President Obama has it easy. He's rich and famous. He doesn't know what it's like for kids like me. The words stung Maria deeply. Miguel had never spoken like this before. He had always believed in his hero completely. Time to go home, she said softly. As they walked, Maria realized something had changed. The light in Miguel's eyes was dimming, his dreams slipping away one day at a time, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Monday morning arrived with gray skies and a light drizzle. Maria walked Miguel to school under their shared umbrella, both quiet in the cool morning air. At the school gate, Miguel gave her a quick hug before running inside, not looking back. Have a good day, Maria called after him, but he was already gone. She sighed and turned toward the diner. Her shift started in 20 minutes, and she couldn't be late again. As she hurried through the drizzle, Maria thought about the $175 she had saved so far, still not enough for the blazer, and the deadline was Friday. Maybe she could talk to Ms. Carter, ask if Miguel could pay in installments. The diner was busy all morning with people escaping the rain. Maria rushed between tables, taking orders and clearing plates. By noon, her feet ached, but the tips were good. Every dollar brought Miguel's blazer a little closer. During her break, Maria called Ms. Carter. I can pay $200 by Friday, she explained, and the rest next week. Would that work? There was a pause on the line. I'm sorry, Mrs. Gonzalez, but the order has to be paid in full. The company won't process partial payments. Maria's throat tightened. Please, Miguel loves debate so much. I know, Ms. Carter said, her voice kind but firm. Miguel is one of my best students, but I don't make the rules about the uniforms. After hanging up, Maria sat on a crate behind the diner, letting a few tears fall before wiping them away. She had to be strong for Miguel. Somehow, she would find a way. Maria's shift ended at 4 o'clock. She hurried to pick up Miguel from his after-school program, then caught the bus home. The rain had stopped, but the sky remained cloudy and dark. As they approached their apartment building, Maria noticed something on their doorstep, a package wrapped in red, white, and blue paper. "What's that?" Miguel asked, pointing. Maria's heart skipped a beat. "I don't know." They ran the last few steps to their door. The package was about the size of a shoebox, wrapped neatly with a presidential seal sticker holding the paper closed. A typed label on top read, "Miguel Gonzalez." "It has my name on it," Miguel exclaimed, his eyes wide. "Who sent it?" "Let's take it inside," Maria said, her hands shaking slightly as she unlocked the door. In their small living room, Miguel carefully unwrapped the package. Inside was a box with the White House logo. Miguel lifted the lid and gasped, "Mama, look!" Maria peered into the box and felt her breath catch. Inside was a brand new navy blue blazer and a red tie, not an ordinary blazer, but one with a small presidential seal embroidered on the pocket. And even more incredible, there was a small American flag pin attached to a note card, signed across the bottom in black marker, "To Miguel, dreams take hard work and persistence. Barack Obama." "It's from President Obama." Miguel's voice rose with excitement. "President Obama sent this to me." Maria couldn't believe it. She reached into the box and found more, a book about public speaking, a framed photo of the White House, and an envelope. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a handwritten note on White House letterhead. "Dear Miguel, your mom wrote to me about your love for debate and public speaking. I was impressed by how hard you work even when things are tough. That's what perseverance is all about, not giving up when challenges come your way. I started giving speeches when I was not much older than you. Some days were hard, but I practiced every day, no matter what. That's how leaders are made, not by having the best things, but by having the biggest heart and the strongest work ethic. Keep practicing, keep believing in yourself, and most importantly, always listen to your mom. She's working very hard for you, and that makes her the real hero. Your friend, Barack Obama. P.S. I hope the blazer and tie help. There's something else in the envelope for your mom." Maria read the note twice, her vision blurring with tears. How was this possible? She had sent a desperate letter, never expecting a reply, and now here was a personal note from the former president of the United States. "Mom, there's something else in the envelope," Miguel said, peering inside. Maria reached in and pulled out a check. When she saw the amount, she had to sit down. It was for $5,000, made out to Maria Gonzalez. In the memo line, it said simply, "For Miguel's future." "What is it, Mama?" Miguel asked, trying on his new blazer. Maria couldn't find the words. "It's help for us, Mijo, from President Obama." Miguel was too excited about his gifts to ask more questions. He put on the signed tie over his shirt, fastened the American flag pin to his new blazer, and stood in front of their small mirror. "I look like a real debater now," he said, his face glowing with happiness. "Can we go to the school, please?" Outside, the clouds had parted, and late afternoon sunlight streamed onto the street. Maria watched as Miguel walked proudly down the sidewalk, his debate notes clutched to his chest, his steps light and bouncy in his new blazer. Other kids stopped to admire his blazer, especially when they saw the presidential seal and pin. "Is that real?" a boy asked. "Yes," Miguel said proudly. "President Obama sent it to me himself." At the school, Miguel practiced his speech with more energy and joy than Maria had seen in months. She sat on a bench, the check still in her hand, watching her son deliver a passionate argument about education reform. How had Barack Obama known exactly what they needed? She had never mentioned their financial struggles beyond the blazer cost, yet the amount he sent would cover not just the blazer but also their rent for several months. It would give them breathing room, a chance to get back on their feet. As the sun began to set, Maria called Miguel to head home. He ran to her, his face flushed with excitement. "This is the best day ever," he said, hugging her tightly. "Wait until I tell Ms. Carter, and Sammy won't believe it." Maria smiled, stroking his hair. "You can tell them tomorrow. President Obama says you're the real hero, Mama." "He's right about that," a voice said behind them. Maria turned to see Ms. Carter standing there, a folder under her arm. I was just preparing for tomorrow's meeting, she explained, then nodded at Miguel's blazer. That's quite a gift you got there. Miguel launched into the story, showing off the presidential seal and the signed note. Ms. Carter listened, her eyebrows rising higher with each detail. Well, she said when Miguel finished, looks like someone important believes in you, Miguel, just like I do. She looked at Maria. And your mom, of course. Walking home, Miguel chattered excitedly about debate club and President Obama and all the speeches he wanted to practice. Maria listened, her heart full. Just days ago, Miguel had been losing his spark, his belief. Now it was back, brighter than ever. One letter, one act of kindness from a stranger who didn't need to care, that was all it had taken to change their world. That night, after Miguel fell asleep still wearing his new blazer, Maria sat at the kitchen table and wrote another letter, this one a thank you, trying to express what Obama's kindness had meant to them, how he had given Miguel back his dream, how he had given Maria back her hope. She slept better that night than she had in months, knowing that sometimes the impossible actually happens. Maria woke to the sound of a voice even before opening her eyes. She knew what it was. Miguel was already up, practicing his speech in the small space between their couch and TV stand. "Me Joe, it's 6:30 in the morning," she called, her voice still sleepy. "Sorry, Mama," Miguel answered, not sounding sorry at all. "I couldn't wait to wear my blazer to school. Do you think Ms. Carter will let me wear it at debate club?" Maria smiled as she got out of bed. It had been weeks since she'd heard such excitement in Miguel's voice. She found him in the living room, still wearing Obama's blazer, though it was wrinkled from being slept in. "You need to take that off before you wrinkle it more," she said. "We should save it for special days." Miguel hugged the blazer to his chest. "This is a special day. Everyone needs to see what President Obama sent me." Maria couldn't argue with his happiness. Okay, but put it in your backpack until you get to school." While Miguel got ready, Maria made breakfast and packed his lunch. She added an extra banana today, a small celebration. Then she took out the check from Obama and looked at it again, still amazed by its existence. After dropping Miguel at school, she would deposit it at the bank. "Ready?" Miguel announced, appearing with his backpack and debate notes. The blazer was carefully folded inside his bag, but the American flag pin was fastened to his shirt. "Can I show Ms. Carter my letter from President Obama before class?" "If we hurry," Maria said, grabbing her purse. Inside was the blazer money and her thank you letter to Obama, which she planned to mail today. They walked faster than usual, Miguel practically skipping beside her. At school, they found Ms. Carter setting up chairs in her classroom for morning debate practice. "Ms. Carter, Ms. Carter," Miguel called, running ahead. "Look what I got." He pulled out the blazer and letter, holding them carefully by the edges as he showed his teacher. Ms. Carter's eyes widened as she examined the presidential seal and signature. "This is incredible, Miguel," she said, "a real gift from President Obama." Other kids began gathering around, their voices rising with excitement as they saw Miguel's treasures. Even Sammy, who was usually mean to Miguel, looked impressed. "Is that really Obama's signature?" he asked, leaning closer. "Yes, and he wrote me a special letter," Miguel said proudly. "He said I have perseverance because I work hard." Maria watched her son stand taller than he had in months, confidence radiating from him as he carefully showed his letter to his friends. Miss Carter approached her, smiling. "This is amazing," she said quietly. "I've never seen anything like it. President Obama rarely does things like this." "I know," Maria said. "I still can't believe it." Ms. Carter glanced at Miguel, now surrounded by admiring classmates. "This means everything to him." "Yes," Maria agreed, "and I have the blazer money." She held out an envelope with $300 in cash. "Perfect timing," Ms. Carter said. "The company is picking up our order today." The school bell rang, and Maria called Miguel over for a goodbye hug. He carefully tucked his treasures back into his backpack, promising to show everyone at lunch. "Don't forget to thank President Obama in your prayers tonight," she reminded him. "I will," Miguel promised, "every night forever." After school, Miguel couldn't wait to go to debate club. He changed into his new blazer and proudly wore it as he entered the classroom. Maria watched from the doorway as Ms. Carter gathered the team. Today I'm assigning topics for our first tournament, the teacher announced, and I'm naming our team captain. The students shifted eagerly, each hoping to be chosen. Ms. Carter looked over the group, her eyes stopping on Miguel. Our captain this season will be Miguel Gonzalez, she said. He's shown true dedication and the kind of never-give-up attitude that makes a great leader. Miguel's mouth fell open. Me? Really? Really, Ms. Carter confirmed. Who better than someone who impressed President Obama himself? Miguel's teammates clapped him on the back and shoulders. Even Sammy gave him a high five. Maria blinked back tears of pride as Miguel stood straighter, stepping into his new role with a surprised smile. After club, Miguel couldn't stop talking about being captain. Ms. Carter says I get to organize the practice debates and help coach the newer members, he told Maria as they walked home, and I get to wear a special captain pin at the tournament. At home, Miguel carefully placed his blazer on a hanger and put it on his bedroom wall where he could see it from his bed. He set the letter from Obama on his small desk, reading it again before dinner. Do you think President Obama will get my thank you letter? He asked Maria as they washed dishes together. I mailed it today, she said. I think he will. I wrote him a letter too, Miguel admitted. I put it in your purse when you weren't looking. I hope that's okay. Maria smiled. Of course it's okay. That night, Miguel fell asleep with a smile on his face, his debate notes placed carefully beside his bed. Maria stood in his doorway, watching him sleep. Yesterday, her son had been losing faith in his dreams. Today, he was a team captain with renewed confidence. One act of kindness had changed everything.